Hi everyone. So my birthday is Rosh Chodesh Elul, so I want to take this opportunity to give you all a blessing. It's also my great-grandmother's yahrzeit, Liba Bas Yaakov Kohen, so she should have an Aliyas Neshama, the ultimate Aliyah of being back down here in the physical world, in a physical body, with Tchias HaMesim and the full Geula. And yeah, so I want to just wish you all a sweet, sweet, sweet new year of Hashem's highest blessings manifest in your life in the most practical, tangible way that you should just really feel blessed. And that's what sweet means, is that you could taste the blessings. They're very tangible. You don't have to convince yourself it's a blessing. It's not a hidden blessing. It's just a revealed good year in all ways. I also want to just take this chance to share with you some thoughts on a talk of the Rebbe from this week's Parsha Shoftim, from the year Nun Aleph, so about like 1991, I think it was. And I was born in Parsha Shoftim, and I feel very connected to the ideas that the Rebbe shares in the Sicha. So it's actually a very famous Sicha. For those of you who don't know, it's a long talk, and there's a lot of depth to it, which I want to get into in a minute. But the main famous part of the Sicha is where the Rebbe says in no uncertain terms, very clear, plain Yiddish, actually. Not, I was going to say plain English, the Rebbe speaks in Yiddish, but that he's a prophet, and that his main prophecy is that Moshiach is coming, and that the full Geula is happening immediately. And, you know, the Rebbe made a lot of prophecies throughout his entire leadership, individual prophecies, big prophecies, like, you know, during the time of the Gulf War, when all the nations of the world were completely freaking out because they thought Israel was about to be blown off the map, and people were, you know, gathering gas masks, and the Rebbe was like, no one's going to be killed. You could, not only should you not leave Israel, you can go there, make weddings, dance on the streets, nothing's going to happen. And it was a huge miracle. Like 39 Scud missiles hit Israel, and not one Jew was killed. No one was killed. I think maybe one person died of a heart attack. 39 Scud missiles. So it was like in the papers, Israel, they were speaking about it. It was a big, big, big prophecy, because you have to be a prophet with a lot of confidence to be able to tell people when, you know, there's a huge war about to happen, these people should make weddings on the streets, you know. But the Rebbe didn't say things in the language of prophecy. He didn't say, I'm saying it as a prophet. People just knew that if the Lubavitcher Rebbe says everything's going to be okay, it's going to be okay. So in this Sicha of Parsha Shoftim, the Rebbe said very clearly, I'm saying in the language of prophecy that we're in the times of the redemption. And the reason why it's so important, I think, for the Rebbe to clarify that, because the Rebbe then goes on in the Sicha to explain the halachas of prophecy and how you're not allowed to question a prophet. You have to listen to him, right? And the Rebbe's so humble, he doesn't really usually speak about himself like that. But the Rebbe's making it very clear that this is really going to happen, and that it is happening. And so, you know, you might think like, okay, maybe we missed the chance. Maybe it's, you know, the Rebbe tried, right? Chas v'shalom. No, the Rebbe said in language of prophecy. And the laws of prophecy, not only do you have to listen to a prophet, but a positive prophecy has to happen. There's no going back. Okay? So a negative prophecy you could do tshuva for, it doesn't have to happen. A positive prophecy has to happen. So, but there's something also very, very deep that the Rebbe explains in the Sicha that I want to just take a minute to focus on. So the Rebbe says that this prophecy from Yeshayahu that says that in the Geula I will return your judges and your advisors, okay, as in former times. That's what it says. But it's interesting, because if you look in this week's Parsha, and this is what the Rebbe brings out, it actually says that you should appoint judges and officers. So in the prophecy it says judges and advisors, and in the Parsha it says judges and officers. So what's the difference? Why in the Parsha does it say officers, and in the prophecy about the redemption it says advisors? So the Rebbe basically explains that because in Moshiach times you don't need officers, right? The judge makes the ruling. We have the rulings of the Torah, right, that we need to listen to. And so perhaps throughout exile we might have needed more force in order to actually listen to the words of the Torah. But in the Geula times, we're going to want to do the will of God. And so therefore it says advisors, because there's the judges, the laws of the Torah, the directives of the leaders of the generation who are telling us what our work is in this world. And then there's advisors to help us internalize it, make it real for us, make it something we can do with joy, right? So in the Geula, we don't need officers, we just need advisors, right? But then the Rebbe goes on to explain that an advisor is similar to a prophet, because a prophet also advises the nation. They advise us on what's best for us, what's good for us. They can see the future and tell us what we should do, how we should act in a certain situation. So it's a similar thing. So the Rebbe explains that we are now in a time period where the fulfillment of that prophecy is already happening, that the fulfillment of the prophecy of Yeshaya. So not only is the redemption coming, but we're already in the beginning stages of Yemos Moshiach. And the Rebbe explains we see this because starting with the Arizal, who started to reveal the teachings of Pnimiyus Torah, and then specifically through the teachings of Chassidus and the Chabad Rebbeim in particular, because Chabad Chassidus takes mystical ideas and brings it into the intellect so that we can actually bring it into our heart, right? Like an advisor who helps us bring the teachings of the Torah into our heart. So through the teachings of Chassidus and through prophecy, which the Rebbe also says prophecy returned with the Arizal, and all the Chabad Rebbeim were prophets. The Baal Shem Tov was also a prophet. I'm sure the other Hasidic rabbis were also prophets. So the Rebbe explains that through Chassidus and through prophecy, we are now at a stage where we no longer need officers. We don't need to be coerced into keeping Torah mitzvahs. We could be inspired into it. And why? Because Chassidus and prophecy strips away some of the layers of the concealment of this physical world and allows us to pierce behind the curtain and see what life is really about. And that Hashem created this world so that we could serve Him in it. And Torah and mitzvahs are the best way to live. It causes bracha to manifest in our life and manifest in the world. So we don't need to be coerced. Now we can do it of our own volition. And that is what's going to happen in the Geula, meaning we are living out the prophecies of the Geula right now. And we are on literally the cusp of the Geula Shlema. And so we should have total joy, total excitement, total anticipation, and do whatever we need to do personally in our lives to be even more ready and to help others be ready. And that's really the message of this parsha. That's the message of the Rebbe. And that's the message I want to share on my birthday, that it can inspire you to... And so the Rebbe also says that, so how do we live with the Geula? By connecting ourselves with the Rebbe. Because what do we just say? What causes us to actually be able to internalize the teachings of the Torah? Chassidus and prophecy, right? What's a Rebbe? He teaches us Chassidus, and he's a prophet. So how do you live with the Geula? How do you get in touch with the layers behind what's actually happening in the world and get a glimpse of how exciting life actually is, and live with miracles and live with God? By connecting with the Rebbe. And so that's what the Rebbe says in the Sikha, the more that you strengthen your connection to the Nasi Ador, to the leader of the generation, to the prophet of the generation, the more you're going to live with the Geula, and we're going to have the Geula Shlema. All right, so let's do it together, and I look forward to seeing you all in Yerushalayim. Aksiva v'chsima tova, l'shana tova u'masuka.